Hello, Foxy listeners. Welcome to the show today. I have a very exciting guest. We're going to talk about a range of things, but let's get to meet her first. Michelle, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you so much, Tanya. Really excited to be here today.
I'm Tanya Fox, and you're listening to Fox Talks Business Podcast. I started my career in the corporate world, but always played to my own tune and loved to think outside of the box. This didn't always serve me well with the bosses, so I made the decision to become an entrepreneur. And that little seed of entrepreneurial curiosity continued to grow as I branched out into retail, service, and franchise businesses. Now, I have been fortunate to have amazing successes in the last 2 decades, but they did not come without some really big failures and even bigger lessons learned. And that's why I started this podcast, not just to share the failures, but to show you how you can turn every failure into a success. We're going to hear from some amazing humans from around the world that are going to share their stories of the good, the bad, and the motivational entrepreneurial life has to offer. After all, life is too short to make all of the mistakes yourself, so why not learn from each other? And of course, we're going to have some fun, because as I always say, well, you know what? I'll tell you that at the end of the episode. So for those that haven't kind of been watching your YouTube page and your videos, give us a little bit of background on you. What is your story?
So I'm an entrepreneur, but a marketer at heart. So I actually come from a corporate marketing background. I worked in the advertising industry on Toyota, AMPM, Arco, Sage Accounting Software, lots of these like big corporate accounts. And what my focus on there during my time there was pay-per-click advertising or Google advertising. So essentially what I'm trying to do is capture demand from people that are searching on Google and pretty much create ads to attract people from Google to go to my clients' websites. So in a nutshell, that's really what I was doing in corporate. And then when the pandemic happened, I started my own business and went out on my own and started serving more local businesses, doing the same thing, but with local businesses. So smaller businesses, professional service-based businesses like doctors, dentists, lawyers, and you get the gist of where I'm going with that. So essentially what I do is lead generation. So whenever someone is looking for, let's say, a lawyer, and they go to Google and they type in, like, let's say, for instance, bankruptcy attorney near me, my goal is to get the ads to appear at the top of Google. So then those leads can then call my clients and set up consultations and hopefully retain with them.
So let's talk a little bit about you starting. What made you decide to want to go into entrepreneurship, or was it a choice?
No, it was a choice. So actually, I wasn't working in corporate, and honestly wasn't finding it to be that exciting. I think I had these big dreams when I was in college of like landing a job in a Fortune 500 company. You're nodding your head because maybe that's where you wanted to go too.
I remember the veil being lifted in the corporate world, and yeah, kind of going, really? 40 years of this? I don't know if I'm gonna make it.
Exactly. Okay, so you and I have the same sentiment. So what happened was, as in college, I had these big dreams of working at these big companies, Fortune Global 500. I'd have a cubicle that would like overlook the freeway every day. Like that was the dream. And wearing super professional clothes every day. And it's just kind of funny how where I'm at now is like the complete opposite of where I imagined myself being. But I had these dreams and eventually got a job at Saatchi and Saatchi, which is a advertising agency, which only focused on Toyota. So I did pay-per-click advertising for Toyota. But I think what it came down to was I wasn't finding a lot of enjoyment, even though it was a really big brand, even though we had millions of dollars of budget. I just felt constrained because I would bring up ideas. I would try to like implement something, but it would take like almost a year to like put a tag on a website or get approval. And I'm just thinking to myself, there's got to be a more efficient way of going about this. There's got to be this is not how I want to spend my time. I just feel like it's not really like my end goal, because this seems a little bit too easy for me. Like
Yeah,
this
hurry up and
staying in
wait.
yeah, exactly. Staying in corporate for 40 years is just, I did have those same thoughts as you, Tanya, like thinking, man, I'm going to really be here for 40 years. I can't do this. So actually what happened was I got connected with someone that I started mentoring, and she was working with an agency owner, a local agency owner out in Orange County. I'm in Southern California, by the way. And we connected and we hit things off. So I actually started freelancing for him on the side and started doing like moonlighting, pretty much like in the
Right.
evenings and nighttime, working with his small business clients. So we had like carpet cleaning clients and a swim school. And I actually found more joy working on those businesses than the actual big brand that I was working on. So that was a huge light bulb that went off in my head, telling me that this is probably where you are meant to be, is with the small businesses and not necessarily with the big, agency. But there was something inside of me that, like a pride thing, like you want to you're thinking about your resume, you're thinking about what other people are thinking of you, and people are probably going to think like, well, why would you leave a really great gig at Toyota to go work for these small time carpet cleaners and these other local businesses. But I found so much more joy because everything was performance focused, and I was behind generating revenue for these small clients, and I could see the needle moving. And that's actually what drove my excitement when it came to the advertising and what I was doing. Because when I was working for big companies, I didn't get that in terms of like seeing the needle move. I don't know if you can relate, but it
Yeah.
was definitely a challenge.
Well, and I think it's very similar. I think that, the generation of like larger clients and stuff, I was in the accounting industry before I sort of ventured off on my own. And so it was, you were dealing with multi-million dollars, and
Mhm.
it was okay, but the joy of having somebody who's smaller that you were able to save, or even though the numbers were smaller, I felt like the impact was bigger and it
That's what it came
mattered
down
more
to.
because the person was like, oh my god, like this is amazing, thank you so much, as opposed to hearing nothing and just being like, oh, that's good, that's your job, and I was sort of like,
Exactly.
really? Like, that's a lot of money. Like, nothing at all.
Yeah.
Like, I'd get a gift basket or something, that
Yeah.
was
And
sort
then
of sent to
like,
everybody.
and when you work in corporate, you have to wait every like 2 years to get like a 2% raise. But when you're a business owner, if you want to make more money, you got to go out and get it.
Yeah. So for you, when you did do that transition from corporate to, becoming self-employed and going into the entrepreneurship, was there any moments that you were kind of like, or something that you were sort of surprised at, or that you were sort of like, oh, it's that old adage of I always use the example of the person who buys a bar and kind of goes, oh, I didn't think it was good. This is what it was going to be. Like I thought.
Yeah, no, that's a good question. So actually what ended up happening was at the start of the pandemic, I just realized like, hey, I'm not gonna keep pursuing this corporate thing. I think that this is a sign that I'm gonna start like doing freelance on my own, because I was still moonlighting and I was still like doing this 9 to 5 thing, but the 9 to 5 corporate thing was just not doing it for me anymore. I was so unhappy. I was commuting 30 miles a day, or each way. So it was 60 miles
Mhm.
round trip to the to West LA. But it just wasn't really giving me that excitement. And then yeah, just ended up leaving. And I thought I made the biggest mistake of my life after I quit, because that's when everyone got the chance to work from home. And that was my dream, was just to work from home too.
Right.
So and yeah, so I thought I made a big mistake, but the
So did
more that I,
you left just before that,
yes,
all of the shutdowns? Oh, okay. Right. So then
yes.
you're like, damn it.
Yeah, so I tell people that I'm like the pioneer of the Great Resignation. I didn't even know it was going to happen. I just left, and then everything got shut down, and then here I am. I think that that was the fire though that I needed to have in order to get things going. So after I left, I was like, okay, well, I don't have a job anymore, but let me go see if, can really go all in on the business. But there's a lot of doubt, right? Like, I think the biggest thing in my head was thinking about, how am I going to even be able to get clients? Would clients even trust to pay me for my services? Like, I think a lot of entrepreneurs tend to go through this too. It's just, getting over those doubts. But I think it just took some time to really build up that courage, and also that the stamina to just keep going. But going back to your original question, was there anything that really surprised me about the business, or you jumping into entrepreneurship? I think what surprised me was how much I really enjoyed it. Like, going into it full time. And I think I knew it was going to be hard, but I think there was just so much sense of fulfillment that I got from owning my own clients, and also being able to set my own rates. And I was really surprised too at, comparing the rates that I would eventually charge my clients versus how much I would be making corporate per hour. It's like, wow, I should have left earlier so I could do this thing. So
Well, and I think that's, sometimes I always remember people going, yeah, but you work so much more than you did in the 9 to 5 job. But to me, I was like, but because I like it.
exactly.
I'm not doing it because I have to. Like, I really like what I'm doing, and I like who I'm working with. So it's fun. It's not, I'm not clocking in just waiting to clock out again like I
Oh
was
my gosh.
there.
Yeah, exactly. And I don't know if you can relate to, but just the idea of, like, back when you were working for other people, like watching the clock and waiting until 5 or 6 p.m. versus now it's like, no, we don't have to. Just if you're done, you're done. And, that's the whole joy of being a business owner, is having that freedom to do whatever you want. In fact, today I'm planning to stop working at 3 p.m. so I could spend time with my family. So
Yeah.
that's,
Well, and I think
yeah,
too, for me, like, I think another realization was, like you had said, coming up with ideas and being innovative, and then say, well, like, we don't, like, that's just not the way we do things here. And I'm like, I know. That's the whole point, but always kind of hitting that wall and going, I'm tired of beating my head against the wall. I want to try these new things. I want to, step outside of the box. I don't want to do it the normal way. But I was, there's always that resistance there.
resistance.
Whereas when I went out on my own, I was like, well, like, I'm not going to say no, like, let's try it and see what happens. And so I found that I learned a lot faster, and my experience grew quicker because I was able to play around a little bit.
Yeah, exactly. There's pros and cons to being on both sides. I think, like, one of the challenges of, like, being on your own is when you have your own clients, uh, it's all on you. It's not like you have a team that you can go back on, or a boss that you can say, "Oh shoot, I made a mistake. I need I need your help to, like, back me up." It's all on you.
Yeah.
So, but it also teaches you great lessons too, because you learn, and then you're like, okay, well, then this is how I'll do it next time, because this thing happened, so that I'll make sure that this thing doesn't happen again. Or this great thing happened, I want more of this, so then let me go try to figure out how I can get more of this type of thing to come out of it.
Yeah. And how to duplicate this. So
Mm-hmm.
let's move to pay-per-click, because I think this is, something that a lot of people that are tuning in and are listening are like, yeah, know what that means, have heard of it. Maybe they've, tried it a little bit, but one of the things that I know I found very refreshing about watching a lot of the videos that you had on your YouTube channel, which we'll link to in our show notes, was just how transparent you are on the realistic expectations to have in doing this. So talk to us a little bit. What are pay-per-clicks, and how can they feed into people using it to generate leads? Because that's at the end of the day what every business owner
That's
wants, right?
That's exactly what it is. And I will also preface this by saying that pay-per-click is not for everyone. So I'll go a little bit deeper. So let me first explain what pay-per-click is. So essentially what happens is, when someone has the intent to do something, or they want to find the answers to something, they're going to go to Google. So let's say that they're going to Google and then they type in a bankruptcy attorney in Los Angeles. That means that they're looking for a bankruptcy attorney in Los Angeles. Once they search that, there's going to be that search engine results page, that page with all the listings that appears within like seconds, right? And what happens is when someone types that in, there's an auction that takes place like within the seconds that will have the ads appear at the top. So what happens is on the search results page, there's going to be ads at the top, and then there's going to be organic listings at the bottom, or not all the way at the bottom, but right below it. So the organic listings are what you would hear is like SEO rankings.
Right.
So a lot of people tend to get SEO and PPC or pay-per-click confused. They're cousins, but they're not the same. So pay-per-click is, think of it like you're at Disneyland and you want to jump the line to appear at the top. You got to pay for the fast passes now. Back then it was free, like at Disneyland, but pay-per-click, it's really what it is you're paying per click. So think of it like you're jumping the line, because with SEO, it can take months to rank, especially in the legal field. And I'm only using this as an example because it's super competitive, right? So it can take months or even years to rank for bankruptcy attorney in Los Angeles. Right. So if you don't want to wait that long, you can jump the line with Google and go the pay-per-click route, so that your ads can appear at the top of Google, and you don't have to wait for your organic listings to appear, because number one, it could take a really long time to even get ranked depending on how competitive it is. Everyone wants the SEO listings. That's like the bread and butter. You want to be listed there because when people click, you don't have to pay. Right. But with pay-per-click, you do have to pay. So some people, they might view it as, oh, it's just like a short-term thing. Like once I get my SEO stuff going, then maybe I don't have to do pay-per-click anymore. But I actually tend to tell people to have both. If you can afford to do both pay-per-click and SEO, you should be doing that, because pay-per-click is going to get you faster results, but you have to pay for it. And SEO, it's not going to cost you anything for someone to click, but it's going to cost you to have a professional in order to rank. So that's pretty much, the way that I would differentiate them. So think of pay-per-click as the way to jump the line and appear at the top of Google when your ideal customers are searching for you.
Right.
Now, when someone actually sees the ad, you can control what's actually in the ad itself. So you can put special offers. So for attorneys, whether it's like a free consultation, phone, we do Zoom and phone consultation, stuff like that. You can say stuff like that, and then when someone clicks on the ad, you have the ability to control what page they go to. So you can create a landing page that has a lead capture form on it and a phone number, so that you can either capture the lead through a lead capture form or through a phone call. And that's typically how the leads are generated. And I have a way of tracking all the leads, so we know exactly how to attribute credit where credit is due.
Well, then I guess too, with you having all of those, those higher analytics, it helps you to then, redesign, or to, in the future, okay, this is what works for this particular client or this industry. This is how people tend to reach out.
Exactly. So that's the beauty of pay-per-click. It's we can see the data, and then we can make updates in real time based off of the data that's coming in.
So I think there's some people too that might have said, like, I've tried this before. I've put a little bit of money down to see what was going to kind of happen and come out of it. And, they might have gotten a little bit. Let's talk about the realistic expectations of not only pay-per-click, but the expense, because it is an expense, right? You are paying for it. And I think I want to really demystify that.
Yeah, great question. I think we could probably spend hours on this, but in order to really make this really concise, what I'll say is, going back to what I said, pay-per-click is not for everyone. You do need a marketing budget in order to do this. So every time someone clicks on your ad, you're paying Google a fee. And that fee or that cost per click is dependent on a couple different things. It's dependent on your competition, mostly based off of the market competition, then how well your ads are set up, and multiple different things without going too deep into the weeds. But I'd say that where a lot of people fail is like they don't like have like a professional like consultation with someone that's gonna like guide them. So they'll just say, okay, I'm just gonna start with $100 budget and then hope that $100 budget per month is going to generate them something. And then like, if it works, then I'll put in another 500. But then you're not going into it with a strategy. You're just going into it like you're gambling, right? Like
Right.
you're going, yeah. So it's like
It's like throwing a flyer off the top of a building and going, I hope this works.
Yeah, exactly. And that's where a lot of small business owners go wrong, especially if they haven't used a consultant, and they think, oh, they can just take Google's advice, because Google will give you like advice in terms of like, oh, this is how you can set this up, so that you don't necessarily have to pay a consultant. But then you have to remember that it's in Google's best interest to get you to spend more or not use another consultant. So they would rather you pay them instead of pay a consultant to give you like real honest feedback about where you're going and what to do. So here's the thing. When you do this type of advertising, you need to have a strategy. It's not just something where you just dump $100 and then hope that you're going to be getting leads from it. It doesn't work like that. You really need to think about, number one, who your target audience is. I know this sounds super obvious, but I'm just going to, lay it out there. How they search, where they are, and then what type of ads, what type of messaging is going to lure them in order to get them to, take advantage of your offer or whatever you have in order for them to become a lead. So you need to talk to a consultant or be able to do your own research on what a good starting budget is. I do have a video on my YouTube channel around how much budget should you spend. There is a minimum amount. So because what I like to tell my clients is, if you fund your budget too low, you're setting yourself up for failure. If a client came to me today and they're in the legal industry and told me that they had $100 per month to spend, I would tell them, don't even waste your money. You're not ready right now. But if you're not funding enough, it's pretty much like driving a car on empty. Then you might get somewhere, but then you're going to eventually run out of gas. And you're not going to get anywhere. So you need enough fuel in order to get to your end result. And a lot of people don't realize it. They think like, oh, I'm just going to put enough fuel that I think that I can afford, and then hope that I'm going to get to.
Yeah. And if I land somewhere nice, I'll put more in and keep going.
And it never works out that way. It never works. I have never seen anyone, just come up with a random number in their head, like on the low end, and then like find amazing success and be like, okay, great, now I'm going to put another $10,000 into advertising. No, you have to be primed and prepped and ready to go. So there are tools out there. My favorite tool is the Google Keyword Planner. It's actually a part of Google Ads, where we actually manage all the pay-per-click ads from. It's completely free. And you can go in there and type in the keywords that you want to target. And then based off of that, you would select the geography that you want to target as well. Based off of that, it's going to give you cost estimates in there. Based off of the cost estimates, then you'll know exactly, well, you won't know exactly, but you'll have an idea of what the cost per click is in that area. Based off of that, you'll do a little bit of backwards math to figure out what is a minimum viable number in order to even start seeing results. And I'd say in order to see results, we're looking at probably between 5 to 10 clicks a day. To even start getting some activity, if we're really going bare minimum. But yeah, if anyone's interested, you can go ahead and check out the video on my YouTube channel on how to budget for Google Ads. Typically for small business owners, if we're looking at like local business owners and you're looking to target maybe anywhere from, up to 20 to 30 miles around your area, we're probably looking at around $2,000 a month minimum. And again, that number is also dependent on your industry. So if we're talking about personal injury attorneys, forget it. Like, well, you will definitely need that minimum, but it's probably going to be a lot higher because cost per click in Los Angeles is $1,000. So if you
Right.
only put $2,000, you only get 2 clicks and you're done. So I'm just saying this only because I also want to like demystify too that pay-per-click is cheap. It's not cheap, but it can lead to really, great return on investment if you have a higher ticket service that you offer. So that's another thing too that you need to consider is what type of service do you offer? Do you have a service where it's like, you typically won't see necessarily you lower ticket type like a hot dog stand doing a pay-per-click advertising because they're only making like, their margins are so tiny, right? And like,
Right.
so they won't be doing that because they wouldn't be able to make any money. But typically the ones that do make a lot of money tend to be the higher ticket professional service based local businesses that I work with. And I mentioned like doctors, lawyers, dentists, where the customer lifetime value is at least $1,000. And it's easy for them to quantify and quantify the fee and then also quantify the budget. So that's typically what I look for when I'm looking for clients as well.
Well, and I appreciate that honesty and that sort of look behind the curtain, because I think like, a lot of times we hear like, like you had said too, this type of thing isn't for everybody. But then there's a lot of people going, well, how do I know if I'm that everybody or not that everybody? So I think these numbers really help people to kind of put it in perspective. And I know there's also a lot of people that have kind of tried to delve behind the curtain and go, okay, I'm going to try to figure this out. And it's like, it's confusing. Like, I know even I have looked and kind of went, oh my God. Like, so can you talk to us a little bit about, so let's say someone's like, okay, this is, I think this is going to work for me, for my industry budget, all of that other stuff. But I know this isn't something I'm prepared to or have the expertise in doing myself, because obviously they want that rate of return. So when they're looking to find help, what are some of the things that they should be at top of mind? Maybe even some questions that they should be asking when trying to find somebody to help with this? Because I think that's kind of a,
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah. And there's a lot of scammers out there and a lot of people selling snake oil. And it's really hard to judge too, especially if this is not your area of expertise. You're not able to know exactly if someone's a true expert or not until you actually start working with them. And then you've already paid them,
right.
this money and you don't. Yeah. So a couple things to note. If you're a small business, I would say that you don't need to go after, you don't need to hire a big time agency. I think sometimes like small businesses, they think like, oh, I have to hire, big agency because they know what they're doing. Not necessarily, because the challenge with big marketing agencies, like these name brand agencies, is what they'll do is they have the brand name, the brand recognition. But the challenge is that they hire a lot of fresh out of college, graduates or junior level people. Not to say that there's anything wrong with junior level people, but a lot of times these junior level people are going to be managing your account. The challenge with that is they're learning on your dime and they're going to be making mistakes. So you have to be aware of that as well. That, you're going to be hiring someone. You also want to know, like, you want to know who's going to be working on your account. So that's just another thing. I would say stay away from the big agency, and you want to be able to talk to the person that's actually working on the account, and not like someone is going to outsource the work to somewhere overseas. That's another thing that is very common in this industry. A lot of times they'll outsource the work to Philippines or India. I've actually seen really good results come from, people using freelancers there, but most of the time it doesn't work out because of like communication and they don't understand the nuances and culture enough to be able to make smart decisions about your campaign. So I'd say as a business owner, a small business owner, it would be ideal to find like maybe an agency or even a freelancer, just like a one-person shop that is going to be dedicated to you. or an agency that's probably like, anywhere between 1 to 10 people at most. And you want to know exactly who's going to be working on your account. You don't want it to be a situation where you're talking to a salesperson and then they end up selling you and then they end up giving the work to someone that is unqualified. And definitely want to ask, do you outsource the work? Because if they do, then that could be a red flag. Like, are you comfortable with that? Because some people, they're okay with that. Also understanding that the cost of management fees will be cheaper. So then they're going to go the route of going the cheaper way. But just because it's cheap doesn't necessarily mean it's good. And also too, just because it's expensive doesn't also mean that it's good. Because I've seen situations where there's, freelancers and agencies that charge a lot or a premium, but then they don't really know what they're doing. So a couple other things to think about. Just because someone is like Google certified, it doesn't mean anything. It's not like being a CPA and having a CPA license or CMA and having that CMA designation. It doesn't mean anything to be like Google certified. I think it's a plus, but it's not something that you should be judging someone on. I think what you need to really ask is, like, what's the strategy here? Like, tell me what you're going to do in order to get me results. And if the answer checks out and it seems like it makes sense, then it's something that you should consider. But I'd also say too, as a business owner, it is important for you to know at least the basics of Google Ads to know if someone's like going to be BSing you or not. Like,
Right.
so
Yeah.
yeah. So going to YouTube, there's so many free resources on YouTube in terms of, if you really wanted to, you could spend an entire month going through the entire, YouTube catalog, and you probably won't get through everything, but watching all the Google Ads PPC videos and pay-per-click videos and try to learn it on your own. But of course, business owner, they're going to be too busy to be able to, spend the time. But I would say at least know the basics so that you know that you're not going to get like duped. And also ask about, hey, what's the strategy here? And if they can't give you a clear strategy of how they're going to get you from destination A to destination B, then it's probably not a good fit.
Yeah. I love that. I think those are great things for people to kind of think of. And also, has this person worked with your industry before? Because I think sometimes, and I've seen it a lot, I think this is the case in any industry, right? That's the first question. How many other clients that are like me or do similar stuff have you worked with? Because if you have somebody, like you said, even, it doesn't matter who it is, whether it's a small company or a large corporate who's never worked with your industry before, you're teaching a whole new thing, right? Because they're going to be throwing stuff at you and you're going to be like, that doesn't, what? Like,
Yeah,
that works in a city,
exactly.
but I'm rural. That doesn't work here. Like, that's, people don't do that.
Absolutely. Yeah. So definitely making sure that they are part of, or that they have worked in your industry. It's not a complete deal breaker, but then it's also going to speed up the time needed to learn the jargon and what's needed to learn in your industry. So let's say like you're an orthodontist, and someone doesn't, the company that you hire doesn't know what Invisalign is, then there's, a learning curve that, they have to go through versus it, someone's been working with orthodontists, they know what Invisalign is, they know what braces are, they know what, invisible braces are versus metal braces and all these other like nuances in the industry that someone that's more of a generalist that hasn't worked in the industry, would know.
Yeah. I think that's, yeah. And I think these are things that, people shouldn't be shy about because, again, like you had said, when you're going into doing something like this for pay per click, this isn't like pennies that you're spending, or this isn't, that $100 that you're just like, we'll see how far this goes. And if I get
No, this is
anybody, right?
serious money.
This
Yeah,
is an investment.
Yes.
So, if there's one thing that you can kind of think of a, mistake people make when they're using PPC, is there something that you're like, oh, I see this all the time, or people come to me and kind of go, oh, this is what I did?
Oh yeah. So Biggest mistake that I see, it's actually not a mistake, a technical mistake in the account. Like I still see lots of technical mistakes, but the answer that I'm going to give you is actually it's not within the Google account that I see. The biggest mistake that I see has to do with operations when it comes to doing pay-per-click, and that's not answering the phone when you get a lead or not following up with your leads. I can't tell you how many times I've worked with clients that complain that they're not seeing a return on investment. But then when we go back and listen to all the phone calls, they're not answering the phone, or they're not following up with their leads in a timely manner. They wait. I had one client, he offers waxing and tanning services, and he asked me, is it okay that we tell the client that we'll get back to them in 48 hours? And I said, absolutely not. Someone is going to move on really fast, especially on Google. People are not loyal. Like they are looking, they're shopping. And if you tell them that they have to wait 2 days to hear from you, they're going to go with someone else, even if your prices are lower. So what do you want? Do you want the business or not? That's what I asked him. But yeah, what it comes down to is a lot of times we'll, start sending up and running the ads, but then the back end is exposed in terms of, hey, we're generating you all these leads, but then it's just not going anywhere. It just goes down the drain because the team is not, the operations is not dialed in. The front desk person doesn't know what to say. They're not really good at sales. They don't know how, or they're just not answering the phone. They're not following up the leads. And then we have to have these conversations with clients around, hey, that your team is not really like holding up their end. And that's why things are falling apart. And then that also kind of leads to them potentially wanting to decide to pause the campaign because they need to fix the back end, or else the front end is just spending all this money and then it's just going down the drain. So that's definitely a really big thing that I tend to find. And, I'll ask questions beforehand before I start working with a client, like, how is your operations like on the back end? Is everyone good on like knowing what they have to say? Because I can generate you the lead, but I can't close the lead into a sale. I need your team to hold up their end. Because it is a joint accountabilities model. I can generate you the clicks, I can generate you the leads, but in terms of generating you the sale, I'm not the one talking to your leads, and I'm not responsible for the end, the ultimate end game. But I understand that you need to see an overall return on investment in order to continue working with me. It's just falling short because your operations are not dialed in. And a lot of times clients don't realize that their operations are not dialed in until we start working together. A lot of times it's like, oh yeah, things are good. They always answer the phone, and then we start uncovering the truth. And yeah, that, situation happens.
Yeah. Well, and I think this is a great thing for people to think of as, where are you leading these people to? And like you said, do you have the right person who's answering the phone or replying to these leads who can give them all of the information? Because you don't want somebody who, is just calling and going, okay, yeah, like I'll set up an appointment for somebody to call you back. Like the person on the other end is like, yeah, let's go. Like, I'm excited. Now I want to do something, but how are you at closing? Because like you said, it doesn't matter how many times people click if you are, if you or your team aren't secure, or you don't have the right people in place that that are going to be able to make the sale go through.
Exactly. And actually I've had to end up letting go of clients because of this issue. Like it hurts because they're good clients. They always pay on time. They're respectful, but at the same time, they're the ones answering the phones, and they're not really doing a good job. And it hurts because I'm seeing that they're the reason why they're not getting the sales, because they're not salespeople. Like some of these clients, I have like some clients in the home health care field. And they're not trained to be a salesperson. They're trained to like help people and like, provide, good caring services and, stuff like that. But they're not really trained to like go, oh, okay, well, give me your credit card and let's get started, So, and I think in order to be successful, especially at, closing, you need to have a combination of both. And you do need to have that go-getter mentality, or else oh, let the client call you back whenever they're available. Whenever someone says that, it's like 90% chance that they're not going to call you back.
Well, and I think
So,
knowing who is on your team. I mean, we had that, years ago that I was like, I had a great lady who was in sales, but she had a huge heart, which a lot of people are like, isn't that a good thing? And I'm like, it is, but then you can't weed everybody out because she gets stuck on everybody's sob story and wants to help them. And I can't afford that. Like, I don't have the
mhm.
mental, our team didn't have the mental capacity to handle, those sort of things. So it was, okay, we're just going to shift you into client care instead of
Yeah,
sales.
yeah, exactly,
But it's,
exactly.
it took us a while to be aware that was what was happening. So I think this is a good reminder of people to, before you go into this, are you looking and seeing what do you have in place that is going to be behind the scenes that's going to make this work?
Mhm.
Because you need to make sure that that is in place before you start spending this money. Otherwise, yeah, like you
You're
said,
wasting.
you're just throwing it down the drain because they're calling and,
Mhm. It happens a lot more than you would think, believe it or
yeah.
not.
So tell us where, I know we've talked a few times about, the YouTube channel and stuff like that. Where else can people go? Do you have things that are coming up that you want to make us aware of, or now's your time for shameless plugs, as I always say?
Yeah, so besides the YouTube channel that you could find just by typing in Level 28 Media and or my name, Michelle Kop, you can also find me on YouTube. LinkedIn. You could just type in my name, Michelle Kop, and you can connect with me there. And then other ways, another thing that is coming down the pipeline is I have a YouTube, actually not YouTube, LinkedIn learning course that's going to be coming out towards the end of this year, early next year, on Google Ads lead generation. So if you're looking to dip your toes and start learning, because remember what I told you, it's important for any business owner to know the basics. This is definitely a good course to dive into. It's about 90 minutes long, but we don't have an official launch date yet. It's either going to be in Q4 or Q1 of next Q4 of this year or Q1 of next year.
And we'll also have the link to where people can do a discovery call with you if they're like, okay, I think she's going to understand what I'm going on. So tell us a little bit, for those people who are listening, who are, really enjoying everything that you're saying, who is it that you love working with? Who's your ideal client that should be making that discovery call appointment with you?
So my ideal client would be a professional service business owner that is looking to grow and that has operations in place. We spent a lot of time talking about that, and has maybe even tried Google Ads in the past, but failed, or looking to start it up. I'm happy to have a conversation with you and explore to see, is it even a good fit? I'm very transparent with my people that I talk to. Is I don't want to waste your time or even mine. So we just need to understand, like, because I know there are some industries where it just doesn't make any sense. But in terms of personality wise, I look for forward thinking business owners, people that are open minded to changes, people that don't take things personally, and looking for a long term marketing growth partner.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for, just being really honest and really transparent about paperclip, because I think this will, allow a lot of people listening to not only understand what it is, but to really stop and take a moment to think, do I have it in place? Am I willing to put, my money where the click is going to be, and
Mhm.
and having that process. It's been such a pleasure.
Thank you so much, Tanya.
In today's world where advertising has, taken such a change from even when I first started my business, it's so interesting to see, but it's a very hard thing to understand all of the little nuances that go behind all of these things like pay per clicks, Google Ads, all of these other things. And when you're spending this kind of money for your business, you really want to make sure that you're getting a return on it. And doing that is making sure that you're hiring professionals that actually know what it is that they're doing and can help you achieve that goal. Or somebody like Michelle, who's going to be honest and transparent with you and tell you exactly what it's going to take to get there. Like she said, you need to have a couple of $1,000s to, be doing these campaigns to really start seeing a difference. And so it really does become a choice and something to think about. But the other tip that she gave that I really loved there towards the end was, what are your operations are like? And I think this goes with any advertising you do. So whether you're doing pay-per-click, whether you're doing, just SEO, like she had talked about before, those two kind of being cousins, whether it's traditional newspaper, radio, whatever kind of advertising you're doing, before you start putting a lot of money, a lot of time and effort, either for yourself or your team into it, what are your operations like? Do you have a back end that is responding to people in a timely manner? And being able to reach someone that is going to have all of the answers and is going to be able to move them on to the next step. And I think that's something that every entrepreneur should take a moment to stop and go, let's review that. Let's see how the business is doing in that aspect. Are there some things that maybe we can change or tighten up? It's always a good reminder. So thank you so much to Michelle for that. And I hope you guys are enjoying these episodes. We have so many guests that I'm excited for coming up to round off our season 6 as we're going into it. December will be the end. I can't believe this year is just flying by. Some exciting things that we have in the works that you guys will be interested in. Finally, the book. Yes, the book. This is something that I'm so excited to be holding in my hand. Now, this is the very first printed copy that I got. You know, as I said, if you watch me on social media, I was so excited. One of the things I wanted was to be able to have writing on the spine. That was like my goal. And ta-da, I did it. But how to collaborate. I'm so excited for this book. So this is a small business guide to help you increase profits, to build relationships, to stop doing it all by yourself. And I've used collaborations since I first started my business. I kind of fell into it by mistake and then thought, I need to figure out how to use this and repeat this so that I can grow. And so this book is essentially exactly how you do that, from step 1 to done to rinse and repeat. So I'm really, really excited for this. I get to read through this and go through it. And soon in October is when we're planning. This is going to be available for the publics to get your edition. So I'm really excited about that. Also, at the end of October, I'm really excited because on the 25th, I am going to be speaking at the Glow Getter Conference. So we're going to have the link below if you want to go and grab a ticket. This is going to be an amazing event in Jasper, Alberta, in the mountains at the beautiful, beautiful resort. It is so serene, and just as you pull in, it's like all of the stress just washes off you. But there's amazing speakers that are going to be there. Dr. Jody Carrington, Jenna Kutcher, Ashley Maydall. So a lot of people who are, really going to be helping you to take your business to the next level. And of course, I'm going to be talking all about how to collaborate and to use that no matter what industry you're in. So those are the two things right now that we are focusing super hard on. And I'm so excited that the world is getting back to seeing people in person, because just nothing warms my heart more than being able to help somebody face to face. So no matter what it is that you're doing today, whether it's PPC, whether it's getting ready to pre-buy a book or grab your ticket for the Glow Getter, make sure that you take time to have fun. Because as I always say, if you're not having fun, why are you doing it?